Good morning. You're listening to Central Wisconsin's 24-hour information station, AM 1320 WFHR. It's time now for the Morning Magazine, brought to you by Comfort Air Heating, Cooling, Plumbing.
Welcome, everybody, to Morning Magazine for this October 21st, 2020, 10:07 on the clock, and you have your host, James J. Malouf here. Thank you for joining us. In part two today at 10:30, we are going to speak with 73rd Annual Alice in Dairyland, Julia Nunes. She is going to join us. Right now, though, we have Wisconsin Rapids Mayor Shane Blaser with us. Good morning, Shane.
Good morning, James.
Thanks a lot for being here. We also have our good friends from Wisconsin Rapids Community Media. I want to say hi to Kev and the gang over there. Appreciate you guys being with us. First and foremost, Mayor, how are you doing?
I'm well. Keeping busy. How about you?
Doing good.
Excellent.
Doing good. It's good to see you. Appreciate you being able to be with us and everything. And good to hear that everybody, you and yours, family's doing all right and stuff. Good. So I wanted to start off right away with talking about trick-or-treating and just kind of diving into that and just giving people kind of an update on any new things that people need to know as far as trick-or-treating this year, if we're going to be able to have it, or the details of that.
So the council did take up or maybe it was on the council agenda. However, they decided not to take any action on the trick-or-treating, and I agree. We will have trick-or-treating on July 31st. However, the CDC recommends that we do not, but we will offer that ability because it's a choice. People can choose to participate whether they leave the lights on or even take part and go out trick-or-treating. Yeah.
It's so many of these things, really all of this comes down to personal responsibility.
Yep.
and looking at your own backyard. And if you're a household that is, in the realm of more worrisome to maybe catch this or something, then, you have to be smarter about it. If you're not as worried about it, or if you're, not as key, you have to play it by yourself. You have to figure it out yourselves. And like this whole situation, from trick-or-treating to going to the grocery store, you've got to play the odds. You've got to be smart about it and follow the regulations, and at the same time, trying to live our lives. We're all finding this balance here. Trick-or-treating is kind of it's kind of a good experiment in a sense, because we've got big holidays coming up. You've got Thanksgiving, you've got Christmas coming up, and we certainly want to be able to celebrate all these days, but we got to be smart about it. So Halloween kind of gives us a chance to be able to kind of figure out a little bit of what works, what doesn't, test this out a little. And we're still being able to give kids a day, with so much that's been taken from them. As adults, we should be able to understand this. I'm incredibly disappointed with so many. It's one thing to wherever you fall on the mask issue. That's one thing. It's a personal. We're Americans. We have freedom of speech, freedom of thought, all that. It's another thing to handle it like a child. It's another thing to take it out on people who are just working a job. You see this all the time online, especially with like a clerk is doing their job. They have a mask mandate, and all of a sudden some stranger comes in and blows up on that clerk when all they're doing is doing their job. They didn't make the mask mandate. They didn't set this in order or anything. They're just doing their job, and this guy acts like a child in front of them.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So we have to kind of not only set an example for our kids here, but we also have to kind of play this smart and figure out ways to handle this and everything. So it's good to hear that. Trick-or-treating hours, are those the same as usual?
Yes, and I believe it's from 5 to 7.
Right, yeah, that's what it's usually been. So I just wanted to double check on that. Again, as much as we understand as adults, we're going to lose some things. Some things are going to be canceled. Some things are going to be rescheduled. Kids are adaptable and everything, but at the same time, as much as we can give them of normalcy and routine, that's going to help through this process. So there's a nice move I think it's a really smart play by you guys, the way you're handling it.
Yeah, and it's an outside activity. So you can spread out, and hopefully the weather will be nice, because that's usually our biggest problem, especially with the weather lately.
Yeah. It's always been a problem for Halloween for out here. All of us that lived in the Midwest, grown up, spent our whole childhoods here. We know what it's like. Our Halloween costumes, especially if you had that Halloween costume that you were excited about, but it was thin.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you remember back in the day, the Kmart costumes that we used to get and stuff?
Yeah.
The wind just cut right through it. So we're used to dealing with that a little bit, at least. Next, I wanted to ask you about voting and the absentee ballot boxes and that sort of thing. You have any information for us on that?
Yeah, so right now, currently at City Hall yesterday, in-person absentee voting started. I believe the clerk said they had over 500 people there voting. Out of roughly, we have 10,000-ish registered voters. I think we've exceeded 3,000 absentee ballots so far through this process, so it's been busy. We're just asking people to remember it's going to be busy, be patient, be respectful, and they're moving the lines pretty quick through there. They've got the process down very well, and that'll be going through next Friday, I believe, is the last day you can in-person absentee.
Excellent. Good to hear, and thank you for that. And I think the key thing is voting. Just, voting in general, just voting. If there's, I really find it hard to believe that at this point I'm sure there are some people who are undecided, but I think that they are just more undecided because the voting ballot is not in front of them. I think that for the most part, people know where they're going. And I'm not just talking about the presidential election, just anything really. And traditionally, just statistically, even looking at it, more times than not, it's a very tiny, it's not even a full percentage of people who have changed who they're voting for in the weeks before the election. In fact, the data shows a month before the election, 99% of people know where they're voting and they're going with stuff. So, voting early is not a big deal, really. The key thing I think that you said in that sentence that we all need to remember is patience, because we are not going to know November 5th who the president or a new president or incumbent or reelected or any of that is going to be. It's going to be patience on it. It's going to be our patience as Americans is going to be tested again during this pandemic. Again, we got to act like adults about it. It's not like the people that are doing this are getting paid billions of dollars to count these votes and do all of this.
And that group of people, and speaking with the clerk last night, it's amazing, and I'm glad to see a large number of people have stepped forward to help. Because there's people that are concerned about working in elections, but we've had a lot of volunteers come forward. People to volunteer. It's a paid position, but I don't think you could ever pay them enough. However, we've had a lot of people step forward, so we're not struggling to find election workers.
How cool is that?
It's amazing.
It's a great feeling, man. We had the League of Women Voters on the last week, and I had that question all lined up, and I was going to wrap up everything, and expected that to be a good minute or two we'd spend on that, riling people up to get ready. We didn't need to do it. They're like, "Oh, we're good." We're like, "Well, really?" Yeah. Like, there are very few counties that can say that.
Yeah, they're not. They're reluctantly turning away people because you can only have so many. So there's people on backup already. Should they need to step in.
That's impressive, and the big shout out to this community for stepping up like they have once again. I feel like we say that every other day, if not every day. But again, a big tip of the hat to the community for stepping up on something like this. And you've been in politics for a while, or at least under with your previous job and that and everything. Have you ever seen like this much enthusiasm about voting, about people getting out there and voting? I'm not talking about celebrities and all that kind of stuff shouting at people to vote. I mean just citizens. So I've never seen so much where just people it's on their minds. They're thinking of it. They want to do it.
Yeah, presidentials always seem to spark that a little bit more. Yeah. I always believe that all of our elections are important, and I think our local elections are the most important because they affect our daily lives. But everybody wants to vote for the president, and so once the presidential election comes around every 4 years, it gets people jazzed and razzed to get out and vote.
Is there anything people should keep in mind as far as when they go to vote, finding out, making sure to find out where they have to go to vote in person, that sort of thing?
Correct. We have two voting places in the city of Wisconsin Rapids. One is Centralia Center, and the other is now at the old East Junior High School. Make sure you bring your photo ID and be prepared. We don't know what the lines are going to be like on that day, because usually that day typically you see a lot of new registrations also. So I'll be curious to see the turnout this year.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see the numbers, especially locally and then in the country, how high our voting numbers are. I'm really excited to see those numbers because it's been pretty disappointing to me to see the last couple of elections and seeing in the 60% of Americans voting. Like that seems low to me. When you have more people voting on these, American Idol shows and everything than this. That seems a little ridiculous to me. Because, spoiler alert, it turns out that person's not running the country. So we would like to see those numbers go up. I challenge every American to vote. Get out there and vote.
It's simple. It really is simple.
So next I wanted to ask you about the fall yard and waste cleanup. That's a little different this year.
So, well, they're beginning to... I'm not sure what day they're starting, but it is through the craft bags. You have to use those paper bags, and they'll have a pickup schedule to
I can cheat because I have it right in front
Perfect,
of me.
good.
So yeah,
I heard a little bit yesterday about it, but I don't remember exactly.
With this, to prepare for these collections, residents must call the city garage 715-421-8218 and place your address on the list for collection. That this is November 2nd is the next collection that's going to be, so you're going to have to call by Friday, October 30th. So mark that on your calendar, make sure of that. But this is something that's important to the city, I imagine, just not only being able to help out the community, but doing this in an environmentally smart way.
Yeah, and also our compost sites are open, and anybody that goes to them knows it's kind of crazy this time of the year, so the lines get a little long. But so that's the other option is you can take the compost to the site yourself for your own leaves if you have that ability. But if you do not, then as James said, there's the pickup schedule. And
also to keep in mind, paper yard waste bags are what's being used now.
Correct, because they're recyclable. They don't have to open up any trash bags. It's kind of still a little controversial. I still have phone calls about that, and people aren't comfortable using craft bags and paying for them, and they're not reusable, and all those situations.
Wait, Kev, did you hear that? You got a complaint about something? Somebody didn't. You're telling me that there's something that you can't have anything nowadays. You can't. I can go on the air right now and say I love toast, and I'm going to get about 3 emails today telling me how dare you eat toast? Toast is it's horrible for you. You just can't have anything, can you? This is something that we're doing to try to help the world, to try to make this a better planet for our future and everything. And still, you're getting complaints about it.
And the craft bags are really convenient because they are recyclable or biodegradable, so they don't have to separate the leaves from the bags. It's just a quicker process for them.
Yeah, it makes sense. It just does overall. I think we all are a little hesitant with change, and we get that, and I'm not making light of that or anything, and I completely get that. I'm just like the rest of you. I'm very reluctant with change, but change happens for progress. And progress is a positive. And it's the only way we get there. Nothing in this life comes easy. Everything takes work. Anything worth having takes work. This takes a little bit of work. We
have to do more with less. So, if we're not, if the guys out there doing that aren't having to rip open bags and dealing with those plastic bags, if they can just throw the bags and go, it's efficient, it's quicker, they can do more and get on to the next project, because there's a lot of fall projects that you're trying to wrap up before the snow plows get on the trucks. And
well, the efficient part, it's a great word to use for this, because that's exactly when I first read this, that's what I thought is, well, this is going to be more efficient for them. And if it's more efficient, it's faster. And if it's faster, it means they have more time for other things, which this time of year, there's no shortage of stuff to be doing from now until basically spring.
Right.
Exactly. It helps their workers out. They're going to be working. We want them to be working smart and efficiently. And this is going to help them do that. So it's a good process. It's a good idea to do. We've been asked you last time you were in about the Mayor's Youth Council, and we're so excited that you're still doing this and this is still a thing. It's a really great opportunity for kids to kind of get behind the scenes of politics and understanding a little bit more. One thing that talking with other people in the community and just looking back at this myself, I also feel this is going to do is in this day and age where we have so many keyboard cowards and we have so many people that seem like it's so easy for them to tear down another human being. Just they know nothing about this person. They know anything at all, but they feel that free to be able to do this. This generation is growing up in that world. This generation is unlike us and everything, growing up in the tech world so much. Every bit of reality we're able to show them of like, hey, this is how it really is. It turns out that what so-and-so was saying about this guy is not so much true. He's just trying to do his job. That can't hurt.
No, and today it's our first meeting, so looking forward to getting together with those youth and kind of planning out our year then. Good
to hear. I was wondering when you guys were going to meet and everything, so that's cool. That's good to hear. So I want to give you a chance to talk about anything you wanted to touch on and stuff, but I do have a couple questions. I do have a fun question I want to ask you. So was there anything you wanted to get to?
Well, I think we should make sure we note Kevin and Joe Bachman and Jim Walsh over at Community Media. Jim Walsh was inducted, who was our community media person for 17 years, was inducted into the Community Media Hall of Fame this year in October, I believe, beginning of October. And then Kevin and Joe over at the current staff over there received, 10 awards, various awards through their programming this year. And yesterday was, I just learned today, and wish I would have learned yesterday, but yesterday was Community Media Day, and It's kind of the whole week is kind of surrounding that, but I just want to make sure to give those guys a shout out because it's a big deal. Jim getting inducted into that Hall of Fame is quite an honor, and
Absolutely.
and the awards from the people there.
Incredibly well deserved and
Absolutely.
very well earned. Kev and Joe do fantastic work, and
Outstanding.
what they're able to do. And please don't let them know I said any of this. It'll go right to their head.
Be our secret.
Just kidding. They do really, really cool work and important work. If you go onto the public access site, you see right away, right on there, you'll see different ways, different services, and different things like that. That a lot of, especially during a pandemic, the community is able to incorporate, still reach out and do these things because of the media that we have and the work that they're doing. As great as the work that they're doing and as a big of a shout out as I give them, they're not able to do that work if Mr. Walsh is not paving that way, is not setting those things up and everything. And just a great guy. Anybody that's ever met Jim knows he's just a good guy. He's I don't know anybody could have a problem.
Well, and he's just
Yeah,
fun.
it's a great. It's a great. I really, really appreciate you bringing that up. I wasn't sure how to shoehorn that into the interview, and I wanted to give them a shout out.
Absolutely.
Thank you for doing that. And I do want to also mention you bring up a great point. Just about the Hall of Fame and that, because that's something noteworthy too. I don't know if a lot of people understand that that's a thing, but that is. And also the World Community Media Day. Like, I feel so bad we didn't know about that. We'd have been talking about it all day on the morning hour.
Pretty well kept secret. I gave Kevin a hard time about it.
Kev, it is something that maybe this doesn't mean it's much this year. Next year, we're having that on the calendar. We're going to definitely make sure to make a big thing of it. We want to have you guys in on the morning hour and stuff like that. Like we're going to make a big deal out of it.
Yeah, I would have gladly done I told him, proclamation naming a Community Media Day, and
there's so many days. There's so many. I'm going right now and tell you it's like National Pumpkin Pie Day or something like that. So it gets a little lost in the shuffle. But a big shout out to our good friends of our Wisconsin Rapids Community Media. Great work that they do, and they do a lot for this community, and we appreciate them. So I wanted to ask you this, Mayor. I thought I was thinking of different things to kind of lighten the load because you got plenty of people that interview the hard-hitting questions and all that stuff and everything, and. The show that Carl and Pam created here with Morning Magazine is certainly where we ask key questions. We want to find out details. We want to find out information that we can get to the audience. That's our job, is getting information out there. They also created a lighter show. This is not hardball. This is not, I get asked this from people from time to time about when we have representatives on and everything. Why didn't you ask this, this, and this? It's like, your local news outlet asked that question 3 times already. What do you really think? There's sometimes, too, where people will be like, well, you got to ask him this and really take him off guard. Let me tell you, people, none of our representatives, including Mr. Blaser here, am I going to be able to ask you a question that he's going to be blown away, and I'm going to get an answer that nobody else is going to get or anything like that. So
maybe,
possibly, but I think
give you that nugget.
That's more of a thing that I feel like you'll do in this scenario where we're having a good time, we're enjoying ourselves. If this is a tense, hard interview, you're not going to want to come in here. You're not going to enjoy yourself. I want that. I want you to enjoy yourself, and I want to get that information out there.
Well, and not to interrupt you real quick, but last night we had a discussion at City Council that we had a large number of landlords there, and the City Council was considering an ordinance. And, I kind of went into it. I was a little apprehensive, like, ooh, this could get pretty ugly pretty fast because it could become argumentative. And I won't name, but one of the landlords got up. He started it off, and he set the tone, and it was a very good discussion the rest of the evening. And it just went very well, in which I was very impressed. And you just never know. You go into it and you just wonder.
And I see the relief on you with that, and it shouldn't be that. I understand that politics have always been tense.
Oh yeah,
and that's understandable. I get that. There's a lot on the line here and everything. Right. But the childish way it's gone, the name calling, the where you can't just talk anymore, where one person sees that another person has this sticker on for a certain representative or whatever, and they won't even talk to them. Like this has got to stop, and that's really cool to hear.
It went very well, and normally that could be a confrontational type of discussion, and there'll be further discussions on it, but that first speaker set the tone, and it just went very well.
Can I ask what the ordinance was that you guys were discussing?
So what they were discussing last night is a request to put the electric outstanding electric bills on the tax roll. They already do it for the sewer and water bills by state law. A local ordinance would require that to occur for electric. And now there's, given the times, which is another struggle, is that there's a large amount of that. And so, it can affect rates. There's a lot of factors that can go into it. But, if I own property, I would be concerned that I have to pay. But as a ratepayer, do I want to pay for the people that aren't paying also? And so it's a balance there. And so that ordinance was brought before council, and they've chosen to send it back, maybe create a user group with landlords and water and light, and have that further discussion to make sure that putting that ordinance on the tax roll isn't the first option, but the last option, and kind of working through that. But those kind of issues that come before council can get contentious. And last night it started out well and it just progressed well.
So, and thank you for letting us know. Appreciate that information. When it comes to our jobs, all of us, Kev's job, my job, yours, this comes up from time to time. So for us, just as a segue, for us here, we have CBS News as a partner, and we play them at the top of every hour for 6 minutes. And then in one of those minutes, CBS plays commercial work. And we have no control over that. That's not, but I guarantee you, at least once this month, I'll have somebody complain to me that, why are you playing that commercial? Why are you doing that or something? But we have no control over it. How often or what kind of questions do you get asked that you have no control over?
Boy, I struggle with, and maybe I shouldn't be saying this, but I don't care, is that sometimes I struggle with my role as a mayor on what I can do and can't do. And so I get asked a lot of questions regarding, you're the mayor, you can do this. Well, not necessarily. So, some of my struggle, I always say the council is the council. The council has the authority. They control the budget there's 8 members. They have a vote. I look at, they set the direction, and it's my job to make sure that staff is going in that direction. Right. And so I look at, they say we have a strong mayor role, but really it's the council. They control the budget, the finances, and so if they take something out of the budget, I have no control to put it back in. And so realistically, I'm finding out that I probably have a lot less control over what I think I would have more control over. I really don't. I have more control over the day-to-day direction of things, but the council is really the ultimate.
Interesting.
Controlling the finances. It really is all about money. And
which I just lost a bet with Pam because I was going to say trains or the weather. I was going to say one of those. I
definitely don't have any. If I had control over it, we wouldn't have tracks through the city.
Right.
They would. That would have been like day one. I was okay. Train tracks are gone.
Yeah.
Because,
boom, out of here. Yeah.
Every one of our lives would be better without the train tracks, and we all know it. And boy, if we could come up with a cost-effective solution and to get the railroad to buy in, it's underpass, overpass, something.
Yeah. But it's one of those issues. It just is.
Yeah.
It is interesting to hear that other part of it too, though. That going into this, you're a smart guy. You knew what you were getting into in many ways. But even with that, there's stuff that you don't necessarily. You only find out it when you're doing the job.
Right.
And I appreciate that. I always appreciate the transparency with you and just the cut honesty. Thank you so much for what you're doing in the community and being with us today. You stay safe and strong. We'll talk again next month.
I look forward to it, James.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you again to Mayor Shane Blaser, and a big thank you to our friends at Wisconsin Rapids Community Media, as always. We're going to take a break. When we come back, Julian Nunes, Allison Dairyland, going to join us right here on Morning Magazine, AM 1320, WFHR.